Hi everybody. So today I am working on my recipes where we're going to try to do carnivore on a budget. Now honestly, I already feel like even when I'm eating my ribeyes, my chuck eyes, my picanha, my flanken ribs, I really feel like I can do that on a budget if I shop sales and then eat a little bit of the more of the chuck eye and flanken ribs. If the other ribeyes and things are not on sale, I'm able to, I feel, save quite a bit of money as opposed to my standard American diet that I was eating, because I am only eating 2 meals a day, and that second meal usually is a little bit smaller. But people often have that objection about the carnivore diet, that it's just going to be so expensive. So I've already been working on my pork ribs, my country style boneless pork ribs. And I'm also going to work on another recipe. And honestly, I don't know what to call it. I'm making this up as I go along on this one. But it is going to be made with some ground beef, some eggs, some bacon, and then I'm going to use my carnivore muffin recipe to kind of give it like a little bit of a crust and a topping. So we're going to see how that turns out. I hope it turns out great. And it will also be very budget friendly because the majority of this is going to be ground beef with some eggs, which are fairly inexpensive ingredients. And so the very first thing I'm going to do for this recipe is right here. I have got 6 slices of bacon here on my tray. Now, I'm about to bake these up. I just want to crisp them up. I'm not going to leave them as whole strips. I'm going to get them nice and crispy, and I'm going to chop them up. So I'm going to pop this in the oven, bake these up, and when they're ready, I'll show you how I'm going to do the rest of this. So I've got all my ingredients combined into my bowl here. It is a pound of, actually it's 73.27 ground beef. So that is actually the cheapest ground beef and the fattiest, so win-win. I've got 2 ounces, of cream cheese. I have 2 eggs. I've got 3 tablespoons of pork panko. And it is not the plain, it is the original flavor. So that does have some seasonings in there. Again, if you don't want that, you could buy the plain ones, which just have the pork and the fat. And I did put in a teaspoon of my Redmond organic seasoned salt. Again, you could just use the plain salts if the seasonings bother you. So as per usual, I'm going to get my hands in there and mush that all up. The only thing not ready for this yet is the bacon. So that's still baking, but I figure I can add that in at the end. I kind of want to add that in at the end anyway. But for right now, I got to get all this mushed together. So I'm going to give this a good mush and make it into a meatloaf type consistency. My bacon is out of the oven. I'm going to let it cool down a little bit, put it on a cutting board, chop it up into bits, and then I will mix it into my meatloaf mixture that I did a few minutes ago, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do with it next. So my bacon bits are ready. They're right over there. And my meatloaf is ready to add that to. But before I do that, I'm going to take some of my Wagyu beef tallow and I'm going to grease up my cast iron. Now, I will say if you have a 10-inch cast iron, that's probably the right size for this. I do not. I have an 8-inch and a 12-inch. So I'm going to use my 12-inch cast iron for this. If you don't have this, you could consider using the bacon grease from the bacon that I just baked up. You just need something to grease your cast iron pan with. Okay, so I just get a nice layer of that beef tallow all over the bottom of that. And now I'm going to add my bacon bits to my ground beef egg mixture here. And just use my hand to kind of mix that in. I just want the bacon incorporated. Kind of evenly, just incorporate it evenly into that ground beef. It's mixed in and in it goes into the cast iron. Now, if you don't have a cast iron and you have some other kind of loaf pan, I'm sure that would be just fine. Nothing fancy, just like that. I'm gonna stick this in the oven on 375 for about 20 minutes. Then I'm gonna drain off the fat and add something special to the top. There is less than 3 minutes left on that meatloaf-ish recipe that I'm currently baking. And while those last few minutes are going, what I've done is I'm doubling my carnivore muffin recipe. So in my bowl here, I've got 6 tablespoons of the pork panko. Now, when I make these as a muffin, I generally use the ranch flavor. But today, for the meatloaf, I've used the original flavor, same as what I put inside the meat. So there's 6 tablespoons of that. This is 2 tablespoons of butter, melted butter. I am going to crack in 2 eggs. Again, this is the budget-friendly episode here, so we've got just the plain white eggs. The baking powder, half a tablespoon. Okay, so that's all in my bowl here. And I'm going to just take my little fork and mix that all together. So this makes my carnivore muffin batter. Spoon. I'm going to take that batter that I just mixed up with my fork. And I'm going to like drop it. If you ever made drop biscuits before, you guys, yeah, I'm not a cook or a chef, but my school in high school, we still had home ec. And drop biscuits were a thing that we did. So yeah, I'm just gonna basically take some spoonfuls of this batter here and drop it at sort of some regular intervals around my meatloaf-ish concoction. So I kind of went I kind of went around the perimeter. I'll show you that in a minute. And then one good dollop right in the middle. And we will see how this turns out. And honestly, I have no idea how long to do this for. None, because I've never baked up this batter in the oven. I have no idea how this is going to turn out or what this is going to do. And I'm going to stick this back in the oven. We're going to start with 5 minutes and then just see how the little biscuits look. Okay, well, that was more than 5 minutes. It's been about a little over 20 minutes. I think part of that is because I did turn the oven down. I don't know if I mentioned that. I don't think that I did. So originally my oven was at 375. That's what I cooked the bacon at. And that's what I cooked the meatloaf at for that first 20 minutes. But when I popped it back in with the dough on top, I turned it down to 350 because I didn't want those little biscuits to get kind of hard on the outside and still be doughy on the inside. Again, this is totally an experiment, so I hope that they are cooked all the way through. Here's what that looks like coming out of the oven. As you can see, well, I don't know if you can see, but there's a bunch more grease. So I'm gonna go drain that off and then I'm gonna cut this into a slice and we're gonna give this a taste. This is an experiment. I hope it turned out. This is also the very first time I've baked in my cast iron. So I've cooked steaks in here. I've cooked several steaks in here now. It is great for that. You can already see a difference in the seasoning on this pan so that the steaks really do not stick and it is so easy to clean. But this is the first time baking in here and also the first time doing something that is not a steak. So I'm gonna tell you that for this whole thing, meatloaf thing, it cost $12.99 to make this. And I'm gonna cut this into fourths. So cutting this into fourths, it's about $3.50 a serving, if I'm remembering correctly. Cutting this into fourths, it is about $3.25 per serving. So this is an awesome budget type of meal that is not just a steak or not just a bowl of burger meat or an egg. Like, I tried to sort of make a recipe out of it. So we're going to give this a try and see how it is. I'm very curious to see these little biscuits, if they cooked through the middle. I'm just using my spatula to cut this. And the reason I'm using my spatula to cut this is I'm heard that it's not great to use metal utensils in the cast iron, although some people do that. And it works fine for them. Okay, so I've cut about 1/4 of this. Oh my gosh, it comes right out. It comes right out of this cast iron pan. So I'm going to show you from the side what that looks like. So you can see the meat is cooked all the way through. And the little biscuits are, like, you can see the little air bubbles. They're cooked all the way through. There's no dough in the middle. So hey, awesome. So I have my fork here. I would also say that if you do any sauces like barbecue sauce or ketchup, the sugar-free ketchup or things like that, it would probably be really good on this. I've just personally taken those out of my diet. But if you still do those, give it a try. I think it would be delicious. So I'm going to get a good piece of this that has a little bit of the carnivore muffin, a little bit of beef, a little bit of bacon. We're going to give this a shot. It's pretty good, you guys. This turned out really good. The one thing I would say is that I think I didn't realize how long I was going to have to bake it to get those biscuits to bake up on the top. So next time, if I had it to do again, I would either use a deeper pan, like if I had a 10-inch cast iron, that would probably be good. And or I would take that initial cook from 20 minutes down to 15. It's not dried out, but it is a little more done than I would like it. So if you like it just well done, that's what this is. It's not dried out. It still has moisture, but I would just like it a little bit less done. So I will definitely make this again and just reduce the time. But this is delicious. This is not too difficult. It's kind of makes for something different than the standard usual carnivore fare. And it's economical too. So what is that, a win-win-win? I don't know how many wins I said. That's a lot of wins. So I am going to go meet some wellness, one delicious plate of carnivore meatloaf with some drop biscuits on top. Plate of that at a time.